Hello all, welcome to Naresh IT Labs. In this video, we will be discussing about what is a void keyword, and then we will be discussing about return keyword. And then there are different types of return types available in Java. We will be discussing about those return types. So let me go into Eclipse. I'm creating a new class. I would name it as return types concept. So public static void main I'm selecting, click on finish button. So first, before we go and understand what is a return keyword and what is a return type, suppose I have a method public static void addition. So I'm defining two variables. Int number one is equal to 100. Number two is equal to 100 result. Result is equal to number one plus number two. Now I am printing the output system.out.println result. So now if I go and run this particular program, if I call this method and run, let's say I'm calling this method inside the main method, and if I run this program, the output will be printed as 200, right? Now here if you see this method, or if you see any method that we create, there is a keyword called void. So what do you mean by void? Void means empty or nothing. So whenever you are having a void keyword for your method, it will not give you any value. So from this method, if I call this method will not provide me any value. Now there would be cases where we need to get the value from this method and we may need to use it in some other place. Now example here, I want to get the result called 200. I don't want to print. I'm not printing. I'm not printing it. I want to get this 200 outside of this method whenever I'm calling here. So whenever I call addition, it has to give me 200 as a output. So whatever value is stored in this result, I want to get that. So in order to do that, or in order to get a value from a method, there is a keyword called return keyword. So what is the job of return keyword? Will give value from a method, or will return the value from the method. So you can return multiple values. So there are different return types. So if you want to return an integer, you can return an integer. You can return an integer value. You can return a string value. You can return a double value. You can return a array values, and you can also return the array list. So these are the various things that you can return from a method. So what we will do to start off with, anyways we created a method and this is having some integer. I want to return this result out of this particular method. How do we do? So it's very simple. Inside the method, at the end of your method here, I will return the value. So before I return the value, now place your cursor on the method that you are calling. It will say void. Void means it will not give you any value. Now, I would be using a return keyword and I would be returning this result. So type return and then what value you want to return. I want to return the value stored inside this result. I'm going to say result. So whenever you have a return keyword or whenever you are using a return keyword, your method should not be void. So instead of using void, The type of data that result is holding is integer because it's an integer value. I need to define that, or I need to write that int there. So now when you are placing your cursor on the method that you are calling, it will say that it will return an integer. So this method, whenever you call, it will return an integer value. So now I'm storing that particular value inside a integer. Integer return value is equal to. So now I will go and print the output here. System.out.println value returned from addition, value returned from addition method is, so your value that returned will be stored here. So I am concatenating this here. Now if I run the program now, here the output should be printed as 200. Output is printed as 200 because we are returning this result, and whatever value is returning from this particular method, we are storing it and we are printing it. So this is how you can return a integer value. Now let's see how we can return a string value. So we are discussing how we can return a string value. So again, I am creating a method public static void, and then I'm going to say details, and inside I have couple of details I am maintaining. Let's say um, kilometers is equal to 10, string name is equal to Naresh, double mileage is equal to 13.2, boolean status is equal to true, all these things. So now out of this method, I want to return this string value. So I can go here and say return name. I want to return the value stored inside this name, which is a string, right? So this is a string. So now you should not have void. Instead of void, you should have this data type there. You should have this data type there. So now if you go and call this method, so now let me comment this. So here I'm calling this particular method. What I'll do, instead of storing it inside a variable, I will directly print. So this method I want to call system.out.println details method I'm calling. Now this will print the output as Naresh. If you run this, it is printing output as Naresh. So this is how you can return a string value. Now let's take another example. So in this example, what I would like to do is I want to return a string value. Now I want to create a method. So that method, what it has to do is I'm going to pass an argument as a country name. So different countries has different currencies, right? Now, if you take the currency of Canada or USA, it's a dollar. Suppose if you take a currency of India, it's INR. If you take the currency of UK, it's nothing but pound. So what I would like to do is I would like to pass the currency name so that it should return the appropriate currency name out of it. I want to pass the country name, it has to return the currency name accordingly. So for that, I'm creating a method public static void get currency name. So now here I am giving a provision for a user to pass the country name. So string country. So now I would be writing a condition, because if the person is passing the country name as Canada, it should return dollar. If the person is passing the country name as India, it should return rupee. Sorry, it should return INR. If the person passed the country name as UK, it should return pound. So I'm writing a if condition, if else. If country name double equal to Canada, return dollar. So why there is a error? Because we are using void. So we should not use void. We should be using string, because this particular value is a string. Be it a dollar, or be it INR, or be it pound, it's a string value. So I'll go and change to string. So there is error that will go off when you are basically completing this program. So else if country country double equal to India, then it should return INR followed with a semicolon. Now I am writing one more, else if country double equal to UK, then it should return pound. Suppose if he is passing anything else except Canada or India or UK, it has to return no currency found for the no currency found for the country name passed, followed with a semicolon. So this is the program what we have created. So now when the person is calling the function, he will pass the country name. Let me call this function here. Get control space. You should see that method name inside here. Get currency name. Suppose the person is passing as Canada. Then what it will return? It should return dollar. So I will store this inside a variable, because this will return me a string value. String RETVAL, return value. Any variable name you can give. Now I am printing that in a system.out.println return value. So if you run this program, it will print dollar, because Canada, it has dollar. Suppose if you pass India, it should return INR. If you are passing UK, it should return dollar. Sorry, it should return pound. Suppose if you are passing any other country name, let's say you are passing Paris. Now it will say no currency found for the country name passed. So this is how you can return a string value. Now, how do you return a double value? So let me go and create a method. Public static void kilometers or mileage. So here I have couple of values. String car name is equal to Honda CRV. Let's say this is one of the value that you have. Let's say I have another value which is double. So double mileage is equal to 10.1. So now I would like to return this double value from this method. Just go to the end, return mileage, and this mileage is having a data type of double. Copy this double, remove this void, and paste it there. So now when you are calling this method, it should return 10.1. So let's see. So here I am calling that method inside system.out.println mileage. Now this should give me output as 10.1. So let me comment this line. Now I am executing this line of code. Run this. 10.1 is the output what it has displayed. Okay. Now, how do you return array of values? I want to return more than one value. So here if you take an example, we are returning only single value. We are returning only single value. We are returning only single value. And here we are returning only a single value. Suppose I want to return more than one value from a method. Okay, how do we do? So let me delete this. So just for space constraint, I have deleted. Now I would be creating a method, public static void numbers. So here I am going to keep, or I am going to store multiple numbers. So first I will be defining an array. So what is the syntax of defining an array? First will be data type. I want to store integer values. Data type, open and close the bracket. I'm using a concept of one-dimensional array, is equal to new data type. How many values you want to store? I want to store 3 values. So now I will start storing the values. Index will start with 0. Numbers of 0 is equal to 100. Numbers of 1 is equal to 200. Numbers of 2 is equal to 300. So I want to return all these values from this method. So I'll go to the end. I will use return keyword and I want to return these numbers. So I will go and say numbers here. So it is giving me an error because we should not use void when we are using return. Instead of void, I'm going to say integer array. So now I want to get all these values and I want to print it here. So I want to get all the values and then I want to print it here. So first I will call this method, numbers method, calling it. So what is the return type for this numbers? It's a integer array. So I'll go and say int. I'm defining an integer array. Give a variable name retval, return value. So I want to print all these values. To print all the values, first of all, I would like to know the length of this particular array. So for that, ret value dot length. So let's see what this will print. I'm giving the output as system.out.println. Array length is. So let's see what will be the length that we will print. It should print the length as 3. So now I will write a for loop. Iterate use index on array. I is equal to 0, I less than ret value dot length I plus plus. So here I will say system dot out dot println ret val I. So if you run the program, it would print 100, 200, 300. This is how you can return array from your return type. Okay. So now let's see how we can return array list. For array list, suppose the person will pass, okay, for a method, I want to create a method where person will pass the country name. So let's say if he pass the country name as Canada, then it has to return the places which are available in Canada, like Brampton, Mississauga, Toronto, Ottawa, Calgary, all these various things, right? Suppose if a person pass the value as Canada, it should return Brampton, Mississauga, Toronto, Calgary, like this. Suppose if a person pass the country name as USA, it should return Newark, it should return Florida, it should return Miami, or it should return New Jersey. So more than one value it has to return. So now I would be writing a code which will return more than one value. Here you want to use a array, you can use it. But if I want to use a array list, I can use array list too. So let's see how we can use array list. So let me comment this. So now first I am creating a method. Public static void get place names. So here the person would be passing the country name. So string country name. So now I will first define an array list. So how do you define an array list? Array list. Okay, so array list, which is from java.util. So array list, I'm defining a generic of string. Array list string al is equal to new array list less than greater than. Here again it will be string. Open the half circle bracket and close the half circle bracket with a semicolon. This is how I would be defining the array list. Why I'm defining array list? Because I want to add Brampton, Mississauga, Toronto, Calgary in this array list. Or I want to add Newark, Florida, Miami, New Jersey in this array list. For that I have defined. So now I am writing a if condition. So if condition to check whether the person has passed the country name as Canada or USA. So now if country name double equal to Canada, then al dot add. Now I am keep on adding the values. Brampton, al dot add Mississauga, al dot add Toronto, al dot add Calgary, like this. Now suppose if he is passing, so I'm writing else if he is passing the country name is equal to USA, then al dot add Newark, al dot add Florida, al dot add Miami, al dot add New Jersey, like this. So now if I want to get this place names if we pass Canada, or if I have to get this place names if we pass USA, I need to return this AL because all your data is stored inside this AL. So now at the end I will say return AL. What type of data this AL is returning? It's returning a array list of string. So take this and I would be pasting it here. So now whenever the person calls this particular method passing the country name, it will return any of this. What if like if he is not passing Canada and USA, I'm writing a else block. Else. So as of now, this method has places for Canada or USA. Some message I'm printing. Okay, so now I will go and call this method. This is the method name. Where I am passing the country name as Canada. Where I am passing the country name as Canada. So what this will return? This will return a array list of string. So I'll go to the beginning. Array list less than greater than string retval is equal to. So now I would like to print the size of it. So I'm using ArrayList. How do you get the size of ArrayList? Size of ArrayList is, so that variable dot size will give you the size of ArrayList. So I'm passing Canada, it should give you the size as 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. If I'm passing as USA, it should give the size as 1, 2, 3, 4. So run this, it will give me size as 4. Now how do I get all the values? So for that I'm using a for loop. So use index on array I is equal to 0, I less than ret value dot size I plus plus. So to get one value, you will be saying al dot get of 0, al dot get of 1. But I want to get all the values. So your count is stored here. So if I want to get all the values, it will be ret value dot get of I. So let me print this using system.out.println. Now when I run this, how this program will work? We are calling this particular method where we are passing Canada. It will go inside. ArrayList will be constructed where it is validating if it is equal to Canada. Then it will add all these 4 values. Then it will return that value where that value will go and store inside this ret value. So now you are basically printing the size. I'm asking Java to start from 0th index all the way until the size is less than 4, and this loop will be keep on running. So now if you run the program, so the size is 4. Now it started printing the values of Canada, Brampton, Mississauga, Toronto and Calgary. Suppose if you are passing as USA, then it should print the values of USA, Newark, Florida, Miami and New Jersey. So this is how you can return the values from your method using ArrayList. So these are all the different types of return types that we might be needing whenever we are working on the projects in the real time. Alright, that's it from return types concept. Thank you for watching. Talk to you guys in the next video.